Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. That's Joe Smith. Wigan Athletic 0, Manchester United 2. The Reds are through to the next round of the FA Cup in a game that, I'm not going to lie to you, Joe.
Yeah.
A few years from now, I won't be gathering the grandkids round to tell them about the time United went to the DW and won 2-0 in the FA Cup. It was a game where we did what we needed to do. Not very memorable. We had lots of shots. We deserved the win.
Yeah.
But it wasn't exactly an emphatic, mesmerising performance. It was just a bit like, okay, job done, move on.
Yeah, and that's what it needed to be.
Yeah.
You know, we got to the point where we were bringing some youngsters on at the end. People, I think Camboire actually looked pretty good, got a couple of good tackles in the second half. But it was comfortable. And even at 1-0, I know obviously you're not really comfortable because a corner or a counter-attack and everything's different, but the game itself was comfortable. Wigan had 2 shots on target the whole game, and one of those was a very good chance in the first few minutes. And after that, they didn't really do a lot at all. In terms of stats, United had an XG of 4, scored 2 goals. Theirs was just under 1. So, you know, in terms of putting away the chances, United should have won and did win. Comfortable win. These are the sorts of wins that, maybe 3 or 4 would have been better, but we haven't had many. In the last 18 months, how many games have you ended it going, easy that?
Yeah.
What, a handful? You know, there's been so many close games. And I think it's nice to have one where, the scoreline wasn't, we didn't obliterate it by any means, but in terms of how the game went, it was pretty comfortable, wasn't it?
It's one of those games where United can almost only lose tonight. If you don't win by 10, people go, it's the 17th in League One. If you draw or lose, obviously lose. It's one of those where there was some good play from Manchester United. I thought Kobbie Mainoo played very well. I think Delo got man of the match. Obviously, he got his goal as well. Just looking at the highlights here, they are highlighting, I think Rashford didn't have the best of games. Yeah. I think that's fair to say. Højlund missed a couple of chances as well. I'd want to see them play much better against Spurs, who will give us a much tougher test. But I was saying this at our time, it felt to me like there was a touch of complacency about United. It was like we were almost of that air of, well, it's only Wigan, we'll be all right. And you get away with it against Wigan. You can't be doing that against someone like Spurs, and hopefully we won't. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know what you think. Give us your, let us know if you agree with the official verdicts of Diogo Dalot as man of the match. Let us know what you thought about Rasmus Højlund, what you thought about Marcus Rashford, what you thought about Alejandro Garnacho. It was very lively. Can you tell much from these games, Joe? Is it a game where you can go, because they're 17th in League One, and it's a bit of a, I don't know, United never really got out of second gear, it's not often to say that. Can you tell much of it, or can you look at it and go, actually, this has sold me the A, B or C? No,
not really. I mean, obviously if a youngster comes on and gets a hat-trick, then that can be a sign of things, and I think Mainoo had a very good game. We'll talk about him a bit more. But I'm not going to criticise Marcus Rashford for not looking great against Wigan. Okay. I think if you look at the bigger picture of the season, then you start to see he's not been great in a lot of games, and that's more worrying. But, a 2-0 away win at Wigan, first time we played away from home in a cup match in what's got to be a handful of years at this point. Yeah, it's ridiculous. 12 in a row, wasn't it? We tend to get Premier League opposition as well, so a sort of unusually comfortable game. I don't really care, and I don't think it benefits Marcus Rashford to slam him for his performance in this game. I would prefer to focus on the positives, one of which was Kobbie Mainoo, who once again was absolutely brilliant, and just I think he gave the ball away in that first few minutes, which led to the goal, the good chance that they had. But other than that, some just fantastic moments from him. 86 touches, his defensive work as well. 6 tackles won as well, which is very good, breaking up the play. 12 ball recoveries as well, so winning the possession back 12 times. Won 10 duels as well. Just a very, very good performance from him. And another one where you just go, yeah, it works. He settles in, he does the right thing, he slows the game down when it needs to, he plays it first time when he needs to. He's got this composure that I wondered whether it would be, not a fluke, but, sort of a one-off when we saw it in those earlier games. But the more you see him, the more he looks like it, and he'll shrug someone off and he'll turn the other way, and his control of his body and his movements and these feints that he does is very, very impressive for an 18-year-old in the centre of midfield. When you think, when's the last time United had an 18-year-old come through in midfield? Like, who is that person? An 18-year-old central midfielder? Doesn't happen. No. It's so hard to break through in that position because it's so important that you don't lose possession or give the ball away. And I'm genuinely trying to think. Tom Cleverley was older than that when he came through, wasn't he?
Yeah, you look at the class tonight too, like Scholes and Button, players like that. I think they weren't playing in the first team until they were in their early 20s.
Yeah.
I think they might have had appearances, but they certainly weren't getting picked week in, week out, which is what's happening with Mainoo right now.
It's amazing.
I mean, you might even have to be going. I mean, by all means, people can get involved in the comments in the chat and let us know if I'm wrong. You might even have to be going back to the days of Sir Matt Busby to find someone who was a sort of an 18-year-old starting week in, week out in the centre of midfield. I know Ryan Giggs obviously played as a winger from the age of sort of 17, 18. And there's one or two others who've come into the team in the teens, but as a sort of central midfielder, starting for Manchester United. And for me, deserving to start every week now. I know it's only Wigan today, but it's not just today's performance on Kobbie Mainoo. You look at him, you look back at his last few games, he's become integral. He really has. Yeah. And I think, again, he's shown that he's our most composed and our best midfielder. I think he's looked our best midfielder pretty much every game he's played. What are the comments saying, Arkid?
Yeah, there's this sort of almost a kind of a split. So there's a lot of people, taking the win, taking the result as it is, on to the next round. That's all that matters. Then we've got a comment from King Eric and others like this. Pathetic performance, no intensity, no passion, no one will entertain the supporters, nothing. Any Premier League mid-table team would score 7 or 8 against this Wigan team. So some people pissed off that we haven't battered them, which is, you sort of predicted that at the start, really.
Yeah, I get it. Because you look at it and you go, look, the 17th in League One, we're playing a full-strength team. We should be taking them apart. It should be 5 or 6. But we were all over him for long spells. And also, Rasmus Højlund missed a couple of sitters. Do I think Rasmus Højlund is a bad player? No, I don't. Yeah. I think he just missed 2 chances that he should have scored. And I think if you look at the goals he has scored for us, he's probably never had any chances that easy. I think maybe barring Munich away, I think all his other goals have been with more difficult chances. I think you look at Garnacho, then he hit the bar with his left foot. He was, he produced a couple of good saves from Mr. Tickle. Bruno obviously got his goal from the penalty spot. Yeah. Perhaps could have done better with a couple of chances. Marcus should have done better with a couple of chances. I mean, it could have been 7 or 8 on another day. And I also feel like there's that whole thing of when you're cruising, when you've got that early goal, when you sort of, in your mind that you're playing a team that's not just 2 divisions below you, but at the bottom of that division as well. A little bit of we call it complacency or just being relaxed creeps in.
Well, on that, SG with a comment, which is basically summing up what you're saying. He says, no one really ever scores 8 goals against the lower teams. You get a couple and you take your foot off the gas because goal difference isn't a thing. There is a bit of that. And I think, I know we've only got 1 game a week now, but some of these players have played 65 games in the last 12 months. Like the ability to only put in 70% and still win comfortably isn't something we've had the benefit of very much at all. So I don't begrudge a lot of them. I know that it's once a week, but that's only just started. I don't begrudge the likes of Bruno and even Rashford to a certain extent, although he's got a bit more to prove. Like you said, playing at 80% because sometimes that's all you need. And if you don't have to play at 100%, why risk getting injured? Why risk this, that and the other than to sort of, prove some doubters wrong? But if you think about it sensibly, the injury record we've had this season, winning games like that is so much less likely to cause injury than having to, go full out, all out for 90 minutes because, you see what happens and players end up getting hurt.
Listen, we've been here before when we were amazing under Fergie, where we'd go away to teams in the lower leagues when we were in the Cup and play a strong team and just win by a couple of goals and everyone will be all right with it. I know it's different because, the manager's under a lot more pressure, but the big game this week isn't tonight. The big game is on Sunday against Spurs, and I expect United to have a lot more about them in that game. The main thing tonight was just get a win, not give ourselves any dramas, not have a performance or a game where it's close or it's a replay or we're having to scrape through or whatever. You just wanted a comfortable win. Yes, it would have been nice to score more goals, and we should have scored more goals. I'm not making excuses for some of the finishing we saw, but I don't feel like this needs a dissecting and a big sort of, oh my God, what is going on at Manchester United Football Club? It's 2-0 away from home, job done, we move through to the next round with a very easy tie, no disrespect to Newport or Eastleigh, but let's be honest with you, that is the easiest tie we could have got, and we've got it. So I fully expect Manchester United to get past those teams.
Yeah, Newport I think are in League 2.
Right, okay.
And Eastleigh are in the National League, which is the 5th tier, or 5th level.
Let's not kid ourselves here. We should be going through past that round into the 5th round of the FA Cup, which hopefully can give the manager and the players something to look forward to. I always think it's better when you're in the cup competition, or at least one cup competition, because if you're in a league and you're struggling a little bit and all you've got to play for is getting into the Champions League, there's that little bit of, you're not going to get a trophy at the end of the season. You're not going to get a big trip to Wembley and a big bit of fanfare if you get across the line and get 4th place. If you've still got a cup competition where you go, we can win something this season, I think it helps you. I don't think it distracts you. I don't think it adds pressure on you, or there's too many games, there's too many injuries. We've got one cup competition now and the league, and I think that's perfect for this Manchester United squad, because we haven't got loads of players in loads of positions, but it gives you that added little bonus of, you know what, if we have a good season, we can still win something, and plus there's every chance we can get into that top 4. Just before we wrap up, go through some of the chats.
Yeah, Nace says, what's even the point of McTominay if he doesn't score, and he's never scoring 10 a season? Waste of space and extra work for other midfielders. We come back to this, and we said it a lot, but last season when everyone was fit, Scott McTominay had one foot out the door. He didn't play. He didn't start. He barely featured. You know, Fred was coming on before him in most games. We know overall Ten Hag's opinion on Scott McTominay. The reason he's been playing in the last few weeks is out of necessity and injuries. There's been times where, you know, we've had Eriksen out, we've had Casemiro out, we've had Mount out. I mean, 2 of those 3 are still out. So, of course, McTominay's been playing a lot in those games, and we've tried to work it so that, you know, we do the best we can with the players we've got. But I don't genuinely think that Ten Hag thinks Scott McTominay is a fantastic player. I think that, you know, once we get those players back, once maybe we sign another midfielder in the summer, then we'll probably see the end of Scott McTominay, which is a shame for him, but I think, you know, he's probably the right thing for United. Naz Amar says, Mainu, fantastic. Yeah, he was brilliant again. J. Billy Josh says, give Cobby a 10-year contract and put in the clause that you get better wages rise each year. What a star will be better than Casemiro. I mean, if he gets anywhere near as good as Casemiro was at his peak, like, what has he won, 4 or 5 Champions Leagues?
5 Champions Leagues,
I think, you know, I'd take, you know, a fifth of that from
if he wins the Champions League for United, I'll be very pleased.
Yeah, FPL Mickle says, Rashford seems to stop and start rather than take players on with speed like Garnacho. Is it due to the injuries that he's had, or do you think it's a change in play style? Maybe a little bit of everything. To me, I just look at someone and see someone who's completely without any sort of, not just confidence, but excitement for football. He doesn't look happy when he's playing. He doesn't look like he's, you know, full of beans. He just looks like he's going through a tough time, and hopefully he hasn't, you know, said, I'm not going to criticise him from his performance today because, you know, I don't think that helps anything. The one thing I will say is I hope he hasn't written this season off in his head. I don't think this is a bad year.
I don't think.
I hope he hasn't done that.
I don't think he can afford to do that. I'll be honest with you.
No,
I love Marcus
he did that
Rashford.
A little bit the year before last.
And I think if he writes this season off and he ends this season with, say, 7 goals in all competitions or whatever, I think he'll be in trouble. Because I think the manager might look at it and go, the last 3 seasons you've had 2 stinkers. Yeah. Can I rely on you? Whether that's a new manager or it's Ten Hag. I'm sorry, because I love Marcus, but you got to be honest and you got to go. It stops being the Ralph Rangnick season was a one-off and starts being that's what happens to you every other season. Yeah. And a manager ain't going to stomach that. He really isn't. So I hope Marcus regains his mojo, because when he's on fire, he's a fantastic footballer. Let's not rewrite history. It's just this season, he is having a bit of a stinker and he needs to turn it around for me sooner rather than later, but I still think he will. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who watched. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe to the channel. We want to get to 750,000 subscribers by the end of the season. With your support, we can do it. We'll be back with more reactions shortly. But Andy Tate, so go and check that video out as well. Manchester United through to the next round of the FA Cup with a decent win. Not exactly a comfortable. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah. Word I'm looking for. Comfortable win. Move on. Thanks for watching.